And welcome, everybody, to the Just Parlay show here at the Max Wagers Network. It is currently Thursday, September. We're in September. Isn't that crazy? I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, and joining me is parlay expert Chris King. And together, we're going to go through some, baseball, usual suspects. And according to my actual scoreboard, it says college football, question mark?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even talk about the CFL today because there aren't any games until tomorrow, with it being the holiday weekend. So
it's a trade-off.
I guess that means we have to talk about, bad college football like St. Francis of Pennsylvania taking on Akron.
So you're not interested in the 47 points for Long Island against like UCF or any of these other teams?
You mean Toledo?
Sorry, I lose track of all the huge 40-something point spreads. My bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad numbers out there. UCF, I know, is favored by, 5 touchdowns or something like that.
Yeah, well, I know that people are thrilled that we're actually going to be talking about college football today because we've had people in the comments section asking for about 3 days. So now we're finally going to cover it. We covered a couple games from the card yesterday briefly. We'll go more in depth on those. I do want to ask you, though, is there any large spread? I mean, let's just say 34 points or more that you actually want to lay.
I think if you're going to...
Let's start there, because there's a lot of really, really ugly spreads, and I just want to know if you're interested in laying it with anybody.
The only one that I would even remotely consider laying it with is Tennessee, because they're at home. Ball State has a new quarterback. They weren't good on defense last year anyway.
They also go no huddle, so...
Yeah. Tennessee could probably score 50-something. Probably by the end of the third quarter. But other than that, I'm not going to lay 40 points with UAB. I don't know if UAB scores 40 points in a game, period, much less against being favored by that many. I don't like Northern Illinois favored by 5 touchdowns over Eastern Illinois.
Eastern Illinois sucks, by the way, but the way that I'm just looking at it, you have to at least make a case that teams, A, their depth is good enough to actually continue scoring in garbage time. B, there's actually an incentive to potentially run up the score. And I feel like I kind of went into the belly of the beast there with my play today because I ended up taking New Mexico State plus the 36.5. And the premise was similar to what you just said about UAB. Minnesota's not exactly good at scoring.
Right.
In fact, they have really, really struggled to even break 40 recently. And if you want to go through a crazy stat that I actually looked up myself, I counted it, Minnesota has really had a hard time scoring 43 points. So Minnesota, just to put this into perspective, Minnesota scored less than 42 points in regulation in each of its last 25 games and is laying 36.5. Now, New Mexico State is worse than some of the teams they faced. I'm not going to try to compare it, but it's pretty difficult to assume they're going to win this game by 40 when they have a hard time even reaching 42. Now, the counterpoint, the reason why I mentioned kind of going head on with the motivation angle is the fact that Kill and Fleck hate each other. And I don't know if you know about that story.
Well, yeah, and Kill also had coached at Minnesota before, too. So
yeah, but he cursed out Fleck. He basically called Fleck a me person. He called him self-centered a couple years ago. And there's rumors he might not shake his hand and whatever after the game. I don't really care about any of that. But people are arguing that Fleck's going to try to run up the score on Kill because of the comments that he made. I think there's more important things afoot. And second of all, if you're already up by 35, does it really matter if you win by 42? Like, I feel like people are overestimating how important it is for Fleck to stick another jab at Kill. Plus, if Fleck ends up running up the score against New Mexico State because of what Kill said, wouldn't that make Kill right that Fleck is a self-centered person because the only reason why he's running up the score?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that as well. The other thing is, Minnesota's got a lot of guys that are coming back that were hurt last year. Ibrahim is supposed to be back, and, how much are you going to push those guys when, they barely played last season?
And Ibrahim was unbelievable against Ohio State, but we saw Minnesota had to use basically 7 running backs last year.
Right.
And if you can keep Ibrahim healthy, he's clearly your best option. Now, I still like Morgan. They have some weapons. I acknowledge Minnesota. I said they were my dark horse candidate to win the Big Ten division. I didn't pick them to win the conference, but I thought they'd have a shot to win the division. But I'm at least going to acknowledge that with a lot of injured players coming back, and we saw New Mexico State play a game, and Nevada sucks, don't get me wrong, But New Mexico State was okay defensively. They weren't totally atrocious. Minnesota also last year ranked 3rd in time of possession. The first 2 teams were option teams. So if Minnesota's going to score a bunch of touchdowns, but it's going to take them 4 minutes or 5 minutes to drive, you're running out of possessions.
Right.
So I think, and New Mexico State plays slowly too, because we saw them try to run the ball a lot in week 1 to try to limit the damage and keep games closer. But you have a team that already played a game, getting 36.5 against a team that hasn't played all season and has some injured guys coming back. I really don't agree with the public angle that Fleck's going to try to win this game by 50 because he hates kill. I just don't buy that.
Yeah, and to the point of that, when I think about Minnesota, I think about last year on homecoming when they were favored by, I think, 30.5 and lost outright to Bowling Green.
Now, Bowling Green is better than New Mexico State, so I'm not picking New Mexico State to win the game outright. But the fact is, we've seen Minnesota, as you just pointed to, play down to competition. And it's the first game of the season. I'm sure they're going to dominate in the first half. They're going to be up 28 at the half, maybe even more. And you're going to have to just hope they end up calling off the dogs like Bama against New Mexico State last year. But the way that I see it, I think New Mexico State is decent enough to not lose by basically 5 touchdowns and a field goal. 36.5 is a lot of points to receive against an offense that takes a lot of time scoring.
Yeah, unless all of a sudden PJ Fleck decides that they're going to start bombing the ball, and I know Soraka is back as the offensive coordinator there. I don't see them.
And that's another thing. They got a new coordinator. It might take a little bit of time to actually get things rolling. I'm not assuming that in week 1, whatever they're going to try is going to be mostly successful, but it's going to be completely successful? No. You might get a couple of wrong patterns, miscommunications, maybe a false start or 2. Anytime you switch systems, it's different to practice in the spring than having actual action. So you might see a little bit of rust.
Yeah. Brandon wants to know if you're coming out with some UFC picks. He likes Figlak and Hekparast at around plus 110.
I have not exactly looked at the UFC card yet. I know I haven't made a video on that in a couple of weeks. To be honest, baseball has been doing pretty well. WNBA has been great. And, now we got college football. So maybe, ? But, I mean, I'm trying to win. So if I find a very, very good play in any of the other sports, I'm probably not going to do a UFC video. There's a chance that I do. But I'd ask, Bren, maybe I'll look at it tonight, and I'll get back to you for tomorrow's show. But as of right now, I don't exactly have much to give you. So
you're still bitter about Usman.
Usman just killed me. Absolutely brutal. That was probably the last UFC bet I made, actually.
There you go.
Pure coincidence.
Sure
actually, no, it wasn't. They had a week off last week. It was actually impossible to bet on another UFC. I could have bet the Contender Series, actually. But, yeah, Usman, that's a rough one. That's a rough one. So
James says Purdue plus the points, Illinois on the money line, and Florida Atlantic -2. Well, Illinois and Florida Atlantic don't play today, Illinois plays Indiana tomorrow.
Okay.
Somehow Indiana is favored.
Okay, that's a start.
So I don't know why James says Illinois -2. I see them getting anywhere from 1.5 to 3, depending on the book.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. We're gonna merge that in. By the way, I do have a big announcement. Thanks for reminding me. Steen and I are having a college football show on Fridays. We're gonna be going back to the 3-pick format where we battle for glory. We're tied 1-1 right now in terms of years. I should be up 2-0. I absolutely punted the first year. I'm still salty about it. But we will be doing 3 picks apiece for college football. I do not believe it'll be a live stream. I believe it's going to be recorded. But we will give you college football picks on Friday moving forward. So I was going to say something about that. I forgot to. Thanks for kind of reminding me indirectly.
Yeah, well, I still think that going with a longer show would have been better. But, nobody listens when we talk about that stuff.
Steen's got a lot on his plate, He's busy.
Yeah, but it didn't have to have Steen. I would have done it. I'm the one that mentioned it to Michael 3 months ago.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man, but that's just how it worked itself out. But we got the green light, so we are going to be having a college football show. Should be about half an hour, so we'll be going back to that. And looking forward to giving out 6 picks, hopefully 5 winners and 1 loss, with Steen losing 1, so I win every week. I'm selfish. I'm selfish like that. But still, just thought it was worth mentioning. But I know we got a lot to talk about today, whether it involves college football, whether it involves baseball, whether it involves going through our final NFL division, which should be fun. You have any specific order you want to do it in?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty flexible. I know the big news coming out of baseball was the fact that for the Mets, Brett Beatty undergoing surgery on a torn ligament in his thumb, so he'll be out until the playoffs.
He gave it a good run. What did he play, like 2 weeks?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. It wasn't that bad. I know he had the home run in his first at bat, and was that it? He had another home run after that. I don't know if he actually did anything besides those two, but
Probably
he
not.
provided a bit of a spark. Kind of.
But yeah, it's going to be a blow for the Clayton Kershaw comes back today. Any thoughts on him?
Dodgers are laying a number, and Kershaw, who's coming off the IL, is injured. You know my philosophy. I will not be back in the Dodgers in this one. Kershaw could pitch well. I'm not going to bother. We've seen Roberts pull a mid-perfect game. He might only go 5 innings. Kershaw, if you think he's going to pitch well, take him first 5. But once again, I feel like any price, the reason why I fade pitchers off the IL that are favored, you just assume they're going to hit the ground running when they come into their first game in like several months. I think they're overvalued like every time because you don't exactly know what to truly expect because there is no recent form to go by.
Yeah, in his last start after coming off an injury back in, June, he only threw 71 pitches. So I have to wonder if he's going to be on a similar pitch count, 65, 70 pitches. So he might not even make it to 5, depending on whether the Mets actually grinded bats or not.
And Bassett's been good. So if you want to take Kershaw, you got to remember you're kind of getting a Fugazi because Kershaw's only going to pitch about like half his usual distance or even potentially less than that. So if Kershaw is going to only go 4, that's what Tim said here. He said that Kershaw's only going 4 according to the manager. That means you're looking at a lot of bullpen help. And yeah, Kershaw might pitch. And Kershaw might lead into a couple mid-relievers, which is, iffy.
As long as it's not Bickford.
I was going to say Bickford, Kimbrel. You got some bad options there. So I think I'd lean to the Mets on principle just because I'm not going to back Kershaw as a favorite against a very good team on the road when I'm not sure which Kershaw I'm going to get. And I know even if he pitches well, he'll give you no length. I think there's no upside to taking the Dodgers in this game.
Yeah, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, if you were going to argue that at least the Dodgers bullpen is healthy and rested, they only used Jake Reed yesterday because Tyler Anderson gave you legs. So at least all those mediocre guys are available and, have a day of rest behind them. Not
Just
like
saying,
I want to use them.
If I told you Kershaw is only going 4 innings and you knew that, what would you price this game at? Because I'd probably have it at Mets minus 115. Maybe minus 120.
Yeah, I'd say maybe. I was going to say about minus 110.
Yeah. So based on that, I think there's value on the Mets at plus money.
Yeah. I actually left the game alone. I took a under prop for Kershaw strikeouts myself.
Well, that just makes sense because he's barely going to pitch. So there you
go.
What was that number at? Like 3.5?
4.5.
They gave you 4.5 for that?
Yeah, 4.5 at minus 140.
I got to find that. That's a hell of a deal. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. That might be on a future slide, but I might put something on that. Okay. I think the order I'm going to go with here is college football first because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience want us to talk football because it's football. So are you excited for week 1-1.5- not week 0, but it's something? I don't understand the idea of week 0. You have games. Isn't that 1?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they want to be fancy and, make it sound like it's something cool. But they should have just called it like 0.5.
It reminds me of the Carlin skit of pre-boarding. It's like you get on the plane before you get on the plane. You played football. Last week was week 1. But it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's called week 1 because it makes people sleep better. So to go through the actual card, I'm not exactly sure how we should go about doing it. We're not going to be able to really go through every game. There's a lot of huge spreads here. I know in the past we talked about Central Michigan. I'm assuming we still like them getting 21.5.
Yeah, I found them at 22 this morning.
Okay, so we like Central Michigan there. I'm not picking them on the money line, but I do think they'll lose this game. I'd say respectably by 17.
I was going to say maybe 14 because, Oklahoma State doesn't have a lot of starters back on defense, and Sanders is prone to turning it over. We've talked about it before, 40 turnovers and 32 starts.
And Richardson can throw. So the fact that Central Michigan
got Lou Nichols.
Yeah, the fact that they have a good running back and the fact that they have Richardson who can potentially pick apart this inexperienced defense, I do think will allow Central Michigan to actually score and keep this game close. I mentioned my New Mexico State spot. Besides that, we'll focus on the two main games or the two closest spread games. I know yesterday we talked about West Virginia getting 7.5. You still on that side, or you pivoted?
No, I'm taking West Virginia with the points. I just think that, like you pointed out yesterday, Addison's not there. Slovis didn't look great at USC before he lost the starting job. And Narduzzi's talking about he wants to see Pitt run the ball.
They kind of have to, right? I mean, I'll tell you what, if I was a Pitt fan, I'd be relieved that he said that because I think Slovis stinks, and I've gone public about that several times. So running the ball makes sense. The problem is you're reinventing your entire offense.
I think the only person that you've bashed more than Slovis is Clyber Torres.
I've roasted the crap out of Graham Mertz too, but that's personal bias because I watched him at Wisconsin.
Okay,
I'm very low on
Mertz. I haven't seen you light Mertz up as much as I've seen you light up Torres and Slovis.
It's because Wisconsin hasn't played in about 8 months.
True.
You wait until Wisconsin starts like losing some games or Mertz is awful, and I'll roast him every day. Gladly.
When they lose to Nebraska.
Yeah. They probably will lose to Nebraska. Last year's game was close.
Yeah, and the fun thing about Pitt, 119th in pass defense last year. Gave up 280 yards per game through the air. West Virginia, probably one of the best offensive lines returning in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So if they keep Daniels upright, he's going to have time to throw against this Pitt defense. I don't see why Pitt's favored by this many points to get there at home. They're saying this line could move forward still to 8 or 8.5. Wouldn't surprise anybody.
I don't believe that personally. I think that people who are going to bet Pitt are either public bettors that want to blindly bet the home team, or they saw Slovis's pep rally where he cursed out West Virginia, and they just want to back him for it. But I like West Virginia plus the points. We know that.
Do you think he's Baker Mayfield?
It's a rivalry game, the backyard brawl, and I like getting over a touchdown with the dog against a quarterback I don't really like with an offense that's going to try to run the ball more. So you're going to see less overall points. That's why the under has kind of been appealing to a lot of people and why the total has dropped from 55.5 to 51. So if you're expecting a lower scoring game, then I got to take the points.
Yeah, I'm taking the points. Pitt's also 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 when favored by at least 7 points. They're 12-18-1 as a home favorite under Narduzzi. That's not a great number.
If I was picking an outright winner as a dog tonight, I'm not picking any of the 20+ points. I'm not a psycho. It would be West Virginia. I think Purdue. I mean, Purdue's getting 3.5, so I guess that counts technically as a dog. But an over touchdown underdog, I think West Virginia is actually live in this game.
I think so too. You also have to remember that Whipple is gone as the offensive coordinator, so now it's a new coordinator, new quarterback,
and Whipple might have been the brains behind the entire operation last year.
Yeah, new wide receivers. There's not a whole lot about Pitt that was there before.
I want to ask Rye though, because since he does root for the Phillies, I don't know if you root for Pitt. Are you a Narduzzi guy? I want to know if people in Philly or just Pennsylvania in general actually think that Narduzzi is a good coach. I'm assuming Rye's going to say meh, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting answer. Rye saying that Bryant will be the upset of the night. Is it really an upset if you beat Florida International?
That counts. What are they getting?
I think they're getting – it was 9, but I think it's up to 13 now.
I see 10.5.
Okay, so it was 13 yesterday. It dropped back down.
I mean, International's atrocious, so I can get behind that. I see
it bouncing all the way up to 11.5 at BetMGM and Caesars.
Yeah,
DraftKings.
I wasn't really looking at the extra games. So I was kind of focused on the non-extra. But if we're including Bryant, Florida International being favored by double digits against anybody is a problem. If you want my long shot, like that has no chance of actually winning, but let's have some fun, I'll fade Herm Edwards. I roasted him in the entire Pac-12 breakdown, and I don't think any of us actually liked their team. We've seen Northern Arizona upset, was it Arizona last year?
Yeah, I believe it was. Good old Lumberjacks.
Just saying, you got the in-state rivalry. Arizona State had a bunch of transfers. The entire coaching staff left. If you want to take a flyer at, I don't even know what the hell the money line price is. Like, what is it, 15-1?
Hold on. It is plus 2,000 on FanDuel.
I mean, If you want to make a case for any of these ridiculous 20-plus point dogs, give me Northern Arizona.
And if you were to bet on Arizona State, the money line on them is minus 6,998 because, don't bother making it 7,000 or anything.
The only thing I know is if I was picking any, I just fade Arizona State because those in-state games get a little bit weird.
True, and like I said, Arizona State, not a very good team.
It's not as weird as Iowa because Northern Iowa randomly keep it close against Iowa and Iowa State every year. It's not that crazy, but we've seen some upsets. We've seen Northern Arizona occasionally sneak up on a team or two in state.
Yeah, they've actually covered their last 3 games against FBS opponents. They beat Arizona outright, like you said, 21-19 last year as a 26-point underdog. They covered against Arizona in 2019 as a 28.5-point dog. They lost 65-41.
Okay, that's a cover.
And they beat UTEP outright in 2018, 30-10 in a game where they were favored by a touchdown.
Just saying, I think if you want to take one fun coupon bet, it's what, $50 to win 1,000?
Yeah.
There's worse ways to spend $50. That's all I'm saying. Pizza money. Yeah. It's a couple pie. It's a couple pies, but it's still pizza money.
Rye said he doesn't like Narduzzi. They do in Pitt, but Philadelphia's the Penn State area.
Yeah, I'm not a Franklin guy either, but I think Franklin's better than Narduzzi.
And nobody wants to root for Temple when it comes to football. So
Temple you can root for, but you're just going to be miserable, so you're just walking into sadness. So most people don't bother. John
Doe said, do we like Louisiana Tech?
I do not. They're switching coaching staffs. They have new quarterback. I mean, is there really anything to like about that team? See, I don't think Missouri's very good, but I do acknowledge they have talent. And, I don't think they have a great coach. He usually sucks in conference play. He's usually decent at a conference. I think Missouri wins this game probably by 21 points. I think it's going to be very close to what this number is. There's too much uncertainty about Louisiana Tech's quarterback situation. I'm just not going to bother.
Yeah, I was going to look and see who their quarterback's supposed to be.
We went through this. They got a couple of transfers, one from Tech, and I forgot where the other one was from, but they both had not played in a year and change.
So, well, are you crossing up Louisiana with Louisiana Tech?
No, I thought Louisiana Tech also had a bunch of people that showed up that...
Matthew Downing is the starting quarterback for Louisiana Tech.
And he transferred, I thought, from somewhere else.
That's what I'm checking. I thought he was the guy that had been there for 50 years and didn't do anything. No, you're right. He transferred from TCU.
It was TCU and Texas Tech. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
so they got a couple of...
He's coming over with, and Sonny Cumbie is there now. He threw for 26 yards last year. He's 3 for 4.
Yeah. But... good question, though, by JC. Do we know anything about NAU players? The answer is not as much as I should for recommending a lean on 20-1. I know a lot about Arizona State, though, and everyone's low on that team. I think that if they were going to start off this post-allegation NCAA era off properly, there'll be an upset alert in state at home. But,
if you want to know about Northern Arizona, they were 5-6 last year. They went 4-4 in conference play.
Okay.
One of their losses was to Sam Houston, who was number 1 in the country at the time. They beat Idaho. They beat Southern Utah. They beat Arizona. They beat Cal Poly, who is going to probably be slaughtered by Fresno State tonight.
Just saying, though, they did beat Arizona, so they have shown up for these games.
Unfortunately, three of their losses were to teams that were ranked in the top 10 at the time in the FCS. Plus, they lost to Sacramento State, who was 19th in the country. They went to overtime against Northern Colorado on the road. So they're not a bad team. I mean, you look at their numbers. They weren't horrible. And Arizona State, can you really trust them? Probably not.
They also do have their starting quarterback coming back, and their starting quarterback, R.J. Martinez, did have 14 touchdowns, 2 picks last year. So he was actually pretty good. They got him back, and I do think that Arizona State might struggle offensively because they are without Daniels now, so they kind of had to reinvent the wheel at quarterback. Northern Arizona also has a starting running back with Kevin Daniels. There's some continuity.
Yeah, he averaged 6.2 yards a carry last year, ran for over 1,100 yards.
Yeah. James, we'll talk about the Hawaii game tomorrow. I made something for it for ESPN. I like Western Kentucky. Hawaii's atrocious.
You made something of it for ESPN?
Clar, ESPN.
Oh, right. Yeah, Clar. I forgot about Clar.
So I prepared some pick there. But, yeah, I like Western Kentucky. I know that spread flew dramatically. It should. I mean, they gave up 63 points to Vandy. That's rough.
John Doe also said the Missouri State spread went from 9.5 to 15.5.
Now we're really digging through the weeds. Okay, cool.
I'm just trying to figure out who the hell Missouri State's playing because I see Southeast Missouri State against Iowa State.
While you pull that up, by the way, just to go through the rest of the main games here, you taking the points with Purdue or you're laying with Penn State? Because I'm looking at Purdue.
Blindly, I was going to go. I was laying the points because I'm not convinced that without David Bell and company, can O'Connell keep that team afloat.
I just think O'Connell's so much better than Clifford. Like, so much better. I'm also anti-Sean Clifford. If you're a Big Ten quarterback, odds are I don't like you.
Is there any quarterback you like in the Big Ten?
Stroud.
How's that a Stroud?
Good. Stroud's good. I was wrong about Stroud because I thought that, his game against Minnesota was kind of fluky. He had like 16 completions for like 400 yards, and everyone's like, this guy's unbelievable. But I think Stroud's good. I think Michigan's quarterback's okay. Now he's not even the starter because they're kind of like rotating between McNamara and McCarthy. I actually think McNamara is not that bad. I don't think he's amazing, but I think he's okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that they're just saying, well, we don't know who's going to be the starter. You're playing a couple of doormats. Why does it matter?
Thorne's okay for Michigan State. But there's a couple I can tolerate, but eh.
Yeah, I'm not. I just don't know if Purdue, they like to throw the ball a ton. I like Brock Thompson, but I'm not sold on their other receivers because who the fuck do they have?
Yeah, but you're asking if I like any quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
Oh, no, I'm just about Purdue tonight.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm just saying that was brought up. The reason why I pick Ohio State to win the conference every year is because they're so much better at quarterback than every other team in the conference every damn year. And none of the other teams ever address the quarterback concern. O'Connell, I like. I can't believe Clifford's still the quarterback. You've seen him be underwhelming or mediocre at best for basically 3 to 4 years. You really couldn't find anybody else who might give him a run for his money. You couldn't find anybody. You're just running it back with Clifford. I'll take Purdue at home.
Yeah, see, I'm just going to take Penn State. I have to see if guys like Sheffield and Thompson had a big game at the end of the year. Can he build off that? And will Peyton Durham stay healthy at tight end? I'm not sold on the run game for Purdue. They didn't run the ball for shit last year. And can they grind the clock if they have a lead?
I'm just going to take the home team in a rivalry game at night. I think, from what I've seen, it's really one game. You immediately think of the Rondell Moore game against Ohio State where Purdue beat them by like 40. But they play well in these type of games typically, and it is a rivalry game. I do think at night you're getting a midweek game as well, so a lot of students are going to be going. I'm going to go with Purdue.
I don't know. They might all be drunk in the dorms.
You want the drunk people at the games, though, because they're the loudest in the crowd. I'm going to go with Purdue. I think they're going to win the game. I got them on the money line. But Franklin, Penn State was not ready for week 1 against Wisconsin last year. They only won because Wisconsin fumbled the ball about 4 times on the goal line. They had 1 first down the entire first half, and they still won the game. I've seen Franklin try to get his team ready for big games to start the year. It usually doesn't work out. I actually think Brom's a pretty good coach. I'll go with Purdue. Or at least Brom doesn't bother me. I think Brom's fine,
That's nice. He doesn't bother you. That's a ringing endorsement.
It actually is, because I complain about basically every single coach. And
this
Brom
this guy totally sucks.
Just saying, Brom's not totally on my shit list. Just saying, I can tolerate him. So there you go. But frankly, I've seen no
tomorrow when Reichel tells you that Brom's on a shit list after Purdue somehow finds a way to blow the game.
I don't care if they blow the game, as long as they lose by less than 4 points. But I'll take
by
Purdue
giving up a
line.
98-yard touchdown with no time left to lose by 8.
I'll take Purdue money line, but that's just my thought. James, exactly. I complain about everything. That's my point. So I'm not complaining about Brom. That's
the problem with millennials.
Yeah, I'm a millennial who wants people to get off his lawn. It's like the best of both worlds. But I think that's basically going to break down every game that we already we're going to talk about. You could ask me.
What, you're not going to talk about Fresno State?
I'm not. I like Fresno first half, but I'm not laying 42.
Oh, did it go up to 42? I thought it was like 39.
Toledo is dead to me, but they'll win the game tonight by 60. Long Island gets killed every FBS game they play. They're going to get absolutely trounced.
Have they actually played a lot of? Or are they just the one time a year they get slaughtered?
I'm like 90% sure they played their first game last year against Buffalo, and they lost by 70 points.
No,
I'm checking it right now. I'm pretty sure they
played FIU and lost 48-10. Then they played West Virginia and lost 66-0.
Okay, so they played West Virginia 66-0, and
at Miami of Ohio they lost 42-7, but they did cover the line.
Okay. I don't know why I had Buffalo in my head then, but I remember them getting killed by a bunch of points. And turns out, Take Me Home Country Road took them home and beat them because it was 66-0.
Well, next week, Long Island gets to play Kent State.
By the way, for the record, we just kind of brushed over it. Florida International, one of the worst teams in FBS last year. They beat Long Island by 38 points in the opener. 38 points. Long Island's going to lose tonight by 60. So, no, I am not taking the points with Long Island. I think they get taken behind the woodshed. Best case scenario, I'll give them 56-7. Best case scenario.
You're giving them 7.
I said best case scenario, they'll score. But I'm actually not picking them plus 47. Long Island gets paid to get their brains beaten in every year. So, no, I'm not picking them.
Well, that's just disappointing.
Yeah.
That's your hometown.
If you also want some advice with some potential, maybe local books or some parlays don't allow it, if you like the favorites to actually cover, you might want to consider parlaying it with the over. You might get screwed, but odds are if you're laying 47 points, the team you bet on's probably scoring 60. Probably.
I gotta look and see what the number was for that game on the total because I saw it last night. Oh, we didn't talk about Akron. Who's worse, Akron or Florida International?
I think Akron's better than Florida International. Akron was actually competitive in a couple of conference games.
But should Akron be giving 17.5 points against St. Francis?
I cannot say I'm too familiar with St. Francis, PA, but money's coming on them. It went from 14 to 16.5. But the total in that Toledo game, by the way, it's 47 is the spread, 55.5 is the total. I think Toledo's going to score 60. So if you want to do a same game parlay and parlay the spread and the total, maybe a local allows you to do that. I think Toledo's scoring 60. So.
Yeah. You have anything to say about VMI and Wake Forest? They've knocked that total down to 65.5.
They should, because Wake Forest had a medical emergency with Hartman, so they're using a backup quarterback. I don't want to lay that many points. You don't know what to expect from Wake Forest. I think they're going to win the game. I'm surprised that money's come in on VMI and the over, which seems kind of counterintuitive. Usually you get money on the dog and the under because you expect less points.
Yeah, the line's gone down to 31 now. It was 35.
But the line's dropped and the total's gone up. I'm not taking the over. I'll tell you that much. There's no way I'm taking the over with a team that's with a backup starting quarterback.
What about Ball State? Are you going to back Ball State?
No, I will not do that. I assume Tennessee is going to be up 35 in the first half, and then you're going to have to sweat it out in the second half. But I think that's pretty much every game. You want to pivot to the pros?
Sure, we can pivot to the pros.
Cool. So to go through the NFL, we went through every single division except for one, and we saved one of the most confusing divisions because you have one clear favorite, which has kind of had a lot of offseason turmoil, and then you have one team that should make the playoffs that's decent, and then two awful teams. Of course, we're talking about the NFC South, starting off with the actual last place team from last year. You have Carolina. First of all, congrats. You somehow managed to be worse than the Falcons last year. That's kind of impressive. But Carolina is not good. They do have Baker Mayfield, so they upgraded a quarterback. A lot of their good defensive players got injured last year. McCaffrey got hurt again. What else is new? And the team fell apart after a pretty solid start to the season where Darnold actually looked competent for about 3 weeks, and then he looked like Sam Darnold after that.
That's about a shelf life of 3 weeks.
But Carolina, despite being last place team last year, is actually not the lowest odds. You have the Falcons at 35-1 with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback for now. Ritter will probably take over at some point. We mentioned the long shots. Do the Falcons have any chance to even win 6 games?
Probably not, barring some magical thing where Mariota thinks he can actually play quarterback. But let me just take a look at their slate here. Obviously, like you said, they don't have a ton of talent. You know, they don't have Ridley. He's suspended. You went out and drafted Drake London.
And he got hurt in camp. He barely played in camp.
Right. So you've got, Olamide Zacchaeus and Auden Tate and Bird and a bunch of scrubs. I guess Brian Edwards might be one of their top receivers, and they got him in a trade.
He was awful with the Raiders, for the record.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the rest of the depth chart.
That's the point. They don't have many weapons. You're relying a lot of faith. You have a lot of faith on London staying healthy and Pitts being amazing. Pitts is incredible. Like, he's just a very talented player. But the defense, you have Terrell, and is that it? Is that like the only player on the defense that's worth a damn?
Terrell, and I guess if no, because they lost Olukin there, he's gone. So
I agree with Jim, by the way. Jim said the Falcons can't win 6 games in the SEC. Fair enough. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule. They have to go to face the Rams. They have to go to Tampa Bay. They have to get San Francisco at home. They go to Cincinnati.
It's a lot of losses.
They get the Chargers at home. They get Baltimore on the road. And then, you got Tampa Bay twice, of course.
We'll play the game we did with the Bears. How many games Atlanta actually favored in the entire schedule? Like 2?
I'm looking here. I don't know. Would you say they'd be favored at Seattle?
Actually, no. I think Seattle would be favored in that game.
Okay. Would you favor them against
Carolina? It would be low, but I think Seattle would be favored by a field goal.
Would you favor them at Carolina or against Carolina at home?
That's tricky. We'll say yes, but less than 3 points. 2.5.
Okay, so then it'd be an underdog at Carolina.
Yeah.
They get the Bears at home.
Interesting. Okay, maybe.
Then that would be 2, because after that it's Pittsburgh, New Orleans, at Washington, Baltimore, Arizona, and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and Andrew's bringing up Cordero Patterson. He was good last year. The issue is he's also old. He had a career year basically at like 32. I'm not sure how sustainable that is. They're kind of going to be using more of a committee approach. The point is I don't really like their offense. I don't really like their defense. I thought Mariota was actually okay in preseason, but I still expect him to get benched at some point. For me, I'm going to personally assume that they're going to finish in last place, and I feel like they're going to finish in last place by at least a game or 2. I think Carolina's not going to be good, but at least Carolina has some semblance of an actual football team. Carolina, I'm not picking at 9-1 for the record. We're kind of lumping them together. I don't trust anyone to stay healthy on Carolina, but, last year when healthy, they were okay. So I think they could win, 6 games, Carolina?
Well, let's see. I'm just looking at their schedule here. Of course, they've got to deal with the same teams division-wise, as Atlanta. So you have to wonder, can they beat anybody in the division outside of Atlanta? I can see them splitting with the Falcons. I don't see them probably beating the Saints. I don't see them beating Tampa Bay.
I think I could see them maybe sneaking one against the Saints. Maybe. And once again, I'm not picking that to happen, but Carolina might be a feisty team. If McCaffrey stays healthy, big if. I'm aware it's a big if. Mayfield's a lot better than Darnold. Maybe they can surprise some people. At least there's some upside to some degree. Atlanta's got no upside. In my eyes, at least.
Well, but you're like you said, it's a big if. You're banking the upside on the fact that these guys stay healthy, and we know that's
huge.
That's not a viable option.
No, I'm looking at the under for the win total. I think Carolina's going to win roughly 6 games, but at least I'm pointing out if McCaffrey somehow stays healthy, Carolina could maybe upset a team or 2. I think Carolina, if McCaffrey plays 15 games, they could win 7 games. They wouldn't win much more than that. They'd have to upset a couple teams along the way. But McCaffrey is so damn good. I feel like people forget just how good he is and how valuable he is to that team because he's hurt every year. But he's so good.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule's going to get fired.
I think he will too. But I think he'll get fired midseason. So, besides that, now we get to the fun stuff. We get to the Saints at plus 310 to win the division. You can shop around. And then you have the Buccaneers at roughly minus 250. The Saints win total, I believe, is 8.5 at -140 to the over. It's one of the most bet overs in the entire betting markets. So the public loves the over on this one. The Buccaneers actually have the most bet under for wins. Their win number's at 11.5. I believe it's down to 11 even in some spots. It's the most bet under. Brady's had a lot of interesting developments. I know we talked about this with a guest about a month ago or so. Talked about developments in camp.
Yep, we talked to Rock.
Talked to Rock. In addition, we talked about Ric Flair's final match, but we're not going to talk about that. But we mentioned how the Buccaneers lost a key offensive lineman, and then they lost another one after that episode aired. On top of that, Brady went AWOL for about 2 weeks. We don't really know why. And it seems
all we know is it supposedly wasn't the Masked Singer.
Yeah, he went off the grid for about 2 weeks. He skipped practice. On top of that, he also got his head coach who won a Super Bowl basically fired because Bowles is now the head coach. And I actually thought Arians was a good coach. So I've seen Bowles in New York as the head coach. I don't think he was awful, but I don't think he's an improvement. I think he's definitely a worse quarterback. Now, a worse coach, I mean. Now, the schedule is somewhat favorable. Am I wrong for kind of liking the Saints at plus 310? Because I'm really looking at Tampa. They didn't really get much younger at any position. They brought everybody back again. So this team's older. There's a lot of kind of drama going on in camp, and I'm a little bit concerned by it.
The big question that you have to ask yourself is, do you trust Jameis Winston to take a team to the postseason given his penchant for turning the ball over?
Well, last year, he actually did a pretty good job, and then he got hurt. But the Saints probably would have made the playoffs if he didn't get hurt. I'm actually okay with Winston. It seemed like he made some strides last year. Now he's off an ACL injury, so we'll see if the movement, he was kind of mobile. I'm curious how that's going to be impacted. But first of all, 8.5 for a win total for the Saints, that's way too low.
I see it at 8 now.
You see 8 now?
Yeah, according to Caesars, as of a couple hours ago, it's at 8. The over is -160.
Over. All day, every day. I think that team, as long as they don't use Ian Book at quarterback or Trevor Siemian, this team should win 10 games. I think the Saints, on paper from top to bottom, are actually a well-rounded unit. Now, do I like Dennis Allen as a coach? He wasn't very good with the Raiders. Then again, those teams were not very talented. But they got the offensive coordinator back. They have a good defense. We know the defensive line is solid with Jordan. The secondary, they just traded Gardner Johnson, but it's a decent secondary. Michael Thomas should be back. They got Olave. Kamara's still there. He's not being suspended. I think the Saints
we know of.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think and the offensive line's good. I think
the
Saints.
But don't forget they did lose Armstead.
Yeah, they did. But I'm acknowledging that the offensive line is still pretty solid. It's better than Tampa's line, and the Saints always dominate the regular season for some reason against Tampa. I'm not sure why, but they do. I think 8 is criminally low, especially at -160. I like the over 8.5 at even like -140, -135. The Saints to make the playoffs is +125. I'm a fan of that. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I like this team. I think they'll win 10 games.
Are you concerned at all about the Saints? You know, their left tackle situation. Like I said, Armstead's gone. Hurst left the preseason finale with a foot injury. Penning is out indefinitely.
Yeah, they're banged up on the offensive line. They still have Ramczyk, so at least one of the sides is completely clear. But, of course, it's a bit concerning. But you compare their issues to the division favorite at -250. The Saints' offensive line is still light years ahead of this current Buccaneers offensive line.
Right, but couldn't you say that the Buccaneers defense is well ahead of the Saints too?
You can say that, but the Buccaneers also are relying on a lot of old pieces on the defensive line. They didn't get younger at like any position. And it's not the same as the retirement home Lakers from this past year, but you do wonder how many times can you run it back in such a physical sport and not expect people to regress? I think the Buccaneers are putting a lot of eggs into the veteran basket, which might work, but I think there's a chance it blows up in their face. I think the Saints got a shot to win this division, at least for the current price. I think 320. I think 310, 320. Maybe if you shop around, you can find like a 330. I think it's decent. I think there's decent value there.
Yeah, I see 320. I
It's
also
not
see
bad.
I also see Tampa Bay at minus 280 at this point too.
Well, I'll ask you, if you were pricing the Buccaneers with the entire offseason and everything, what price would you give Tampa?
I mean, I probably wouldn't put it at 250 or 280. I'd probably put it around maybe 180,
Okay, there you go.
175.
So, in other words, they're overpriced by about $1. That's my
Yeah.
point. I think the value is on New Orleans.
Yeah, there's value. I just don't know if they can pull it off. I mean,
We'll
that's going to be the big issue. Can Winston stay healthy? Because do you really want to go into a playoff chase with Andy Dalton?
We'll see. Dalton is still much better than Trevor Siemian. Let's just get that clear. But I do at least acknowledge that Tampa's overvalued, obviously, and the Saints could be feisty. So if you want to talk about value, I'm actually not going to go with the favorite. I'm going to take the Saints. I think there's value there. I really do love the over 8 wins. I'd rather lay the extra 20 cents, to be honest, to pick up a push at 8 and 9. I would gladly take the over 8. I think that Saints team is a lot better than people think, and the floor might be 8 wins. On paper, that's a good team.
On paper, everybody's a good team. That's the problem.
That's not true. That is definitely not true. We both know that. I'm a Jets fan. I can tell you on paper, not every team is a good team.
Hey, come on! How many times have we heard about how people are betting on the Jets this year?
That's their problem. I'm not telling you the Texans are going to be a good team. I'm not saying the Jaguars are going to be a good team. The Saints on paper are a pretty good team.
The rough stretch for New Orleans comes late because starting in late November, they get the Rams, the 49ers, Tampa Bay on the road. Then they get their bye week. They don't get a bye week until mid-December.
That's rough. I still can't believe there's not 2 bye weeks, but that's a whole separate rant.
Yeah, then they get Atlanta, and then they have Cleveland and Philadelphia on the road, and then they get Carolina to close the year. But that 3-week stretch going into the bye, and if you want to go back a couple of weeks, they have Baltimore to start November. They have at Pittsburgh. Then it's the Rams, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay. Those 5 weeks are going to be a big determination as to what happens with the Saints this year.
Yeah, they will. And Jim's mentioned that the Buccaneers play 6 playoff teams, including 2 Super Bowl teams. You look at the home road splits, though, a lot of those big games are at home. Just going to throw it out there. They do have a tough schedule. A lot of the really, really tough opponents that Tampa has to play, it's in Tampa. If that matters. It might not matter, but I'm going to bring that up. So I'll go with the Saints. I like the over win total for 8. And I also like them make the playoffs at plus 125. Those are my favorite plays in this division. If you want to make a case for Tampa under, I'm not going to make that case. I find it weird that Tampa is the most bet under for a win total. That kind of shocked me.
Well, it's at 11.5. I mean,
Yeah, people betting against Brady. Like that. Usually the public's all over Brady overs. So that's kind of why I was surprised. The Saints being a very, very bet prop for the over for win total, I think it makes all the sense in the world. That's my favorite win total. My favorite prop is Saints playoffs.
Yeah, I think that those are good bets. I can see why people are betting on the under, though, because, 11-6.
Oh, I get it. It's just the number one bet under. The biggest liability is fading Brady. That's a little bit sacrilegious, isn't it?
Well, I mean, look at this. Look at the injuries, like you said. You don't know what you're gonna get from Godwin because he's still rehabbing. They hope he's going to play in Week 1. You don't know.
Julio might only play 2 games. So we don't know how long he's
Julio
going to stay.
sucks. I don't even know why they signed him.
He's going to take over Gronk's spot. He's probably going to play tight end in a couple of formations.
Yeah, I remember when Buffalo tried to put Kelvin Benjamin at tight end. It didn't work well.
That's because he couldn't stop eating.
Yeah, this is true.
So,
but you look at the schedule. Tampa, they open at Dallas, at New Orleans, and they get 3 straight home games: Green Bay and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks before you get Atlanta. At least you can beat Atlanta. Then it's at Pittsburgh, at Carolina. Then you get Baltimore at home on a Thursday night, and then you got to play the Rams.
It's rough.
And then the next week you go to Munich to play the Seahawks.
9,
basically.
Yeah.
Then they get the bye. Then it's at Cleveland. Then it's New Orleans at home. Then it's at San Francisco, and then they get Cincinnati at home, and then they go to Arizona. So I mean, there's potential for 6 or 7 losses there, especially with the injuries they have. You don't know how that line's going to hold up. You don't know if Fournette's going to stay motivated because
you don't know if anybody's going to stay motivated on that team.
Oh, Fournette's a head case.
Yes, he is. He's talented though, but he's a head
And
case.
you don't have any depth behind him. And
That's
you're
true.
looking at Rashad White and Keyshawn Vaughn
Not many good options there.
and Bernard.
White's an intriguing rookie. I think he could potentially have some value, but that's still a lot of question marks. Either way, I agree about the under for Tampa. I'm just shocked it's the number one under that's being bet. That part surprises me. That's the only point I'm making. I like the under. But number one, the biggest liability, I thought they'd be like fifth.
Maybe they figure that Brady's going to disappear during the season, and then they're going to have to go to Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask.
It could be. But either way, I was kind of going to wrap up the division. Besides that, I also like Winston to win comeback player of the year. I believe that's 5-1. He's really the only quarterback under serious consideration. You could argue, I guess, Baker, but Baker played last year. He shouldn't have, but he played. That doesn't really count. Winston would be my pick at 5-1, but that's kind of the only actual award prop I'm looking at. You want to move on to the baseball card?
Sure, we can do that.
Cool.
By the way, from the early game, the Mariners up 6-0 on the Tigers.
They've been cooking, but to actually go through some housekeeping first, BetMGM, if you want to bet some of those win totals, they have a great deal for first-time users of their app or website. Get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. All the information is in the show box. Check the age limits, and as always, bet responsibly. So, without further ado, let's get the show on the road.
All right. Let's start with the for the money. I put the Braves up there just because it was funny. I'd like to thank Kenley Jansen for screwing me over last night by giving up a 2-run homer in the ninth. In a game where Kyle Wright probably could have just kept pitching because
was that the debut home run for that guy? That first home run in his career, or was that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
I thought it was. Okay.
That guy that nobody even knows who the fuck it was. Yeah, Bryce said he got juiced with that. How do you get the first two guys out and then give up a hit and then give up a 2-run homer to a kid that nobody even cares who he is?
You're gonna have to ask him that.
I would, but somebody's probably
gonna have to ask him.
Somebody's probably gonna stab him with a pen.
Yep.
And there we go. I put Central Michigan up there. There's the money line in case anybody wasn't so inclined to try and chase plus 1,100. But yeah, I think the Chippewas cover the line in that game. I just don't trust Oklahoma State even at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Guardians over the Orioles. Bradish, he pitched well in his last start against Houston.
That's being modest. He was incredible. I don't know where the hell that came from. He was randomly really good.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You
said he was pretty good. That might be the best start of his entire carear.
But he pulled the horseshoe out of his ass now. So reality,
I think he did. I'm just saying that might have been the peak of his entire MLB pitching career.
It was either that or the start he had against St. Louis back in May.
Yeah.
And that one he fanned 11. But still, it's Bieber going for the Guardians. You know, he's pitched really well of late. Took a couple of tough back-to-back losses, or a back loss and a no decision. Gave up 2 runs in 6 1/3 against the White Sox and a 2-0 loss. Gave up 2 runs in 7 against the Mariners. They lost 3-2 and 11. If you give up 2 runs in 7 innings, you're doing pretty well. He's only given up 9 runs in his last 6 starts. Gone at least 6 innings in all of them.
Are you sure that Bieber can handle the luscious hair of Henderson?
Well, you know,
maybe somebody
will sneak up and cut him and cut it out of him. Then he'll be screwed.
Yeah. I also can't believe that the name Gunner hasn't appeared in like any Top Gun movie. There's like a perfect pilot name, but that has not been a thing.
Well, you know, that's because, you know why? I'll tell you why. It's because Gunner is also one of the names of the brothers from the band Nelson. And after people saw Nelson, they were like, no, we're not going to call our kid that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm gonna ride Bieber here. I just don't trust Bradish. And there's West Virginia. We talked about them already. Scott, do you see a chance where they could win the game outright?
West Virginia? Yeah. I actually think they got a good shot to win the game outright. I don't think that it's going to be easy, but if you're looking at a rivalry game, you're getting more than a touchdown. It's a brand new quarterback for Pitt, brand new offensive coordinator, and you're reinventing the entire offense. I think this game could finish, I don't even know, like 23-20? 24-20. Like, I think it's a one-possession game with like 2 minutes to go. I don't mind plus 255.
And Richie says he's back in the Rockies tonight.
Okay. You know,
Chad,
I'm not
Chad
going to
Poole
roast you.
against Spencer Strider.
I'm not going to roast you for trying to get like 3-1 on a money line, but if you're asking my thoughts on the game, I think Atlantic probably kills them tonight. Strider's incredible. Cool has been honestly better than I thought he would be, and he still has a 5+ ERA, which tells you my thoughts on Chad Cool. But he's been terrible on the road, 6.02 ERA. He doesn't give you any length at all. He's going less than 5 1/3 in each of his last. Oh boy.
87 starts.
He had a complete game shutout against the Dodgers, and then he's gone 5 innings or less in each of the last 7 starts. So you're getting the Rockies bullpen for at least 3. I'm going with I think the Braves win this game by like 3 runs, give or take.
Yeah, and the more concerning part is his last 4 starts, he's thrown a total of 15 innings and given up 22 runs.
Yeah, Cool, even if he pitches well, he's not given much length. That Rockies bullpen's atrocious. I think the Braves win comfortably.
And Strider has only given up a total of 3 runs in his last 3 starts, covering 17 innings. If you go back,
he'd get my vote for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, if you go back 6 starts, he's given up a total of 9 runs, and 4 of those came in a loss to the Mets at Citi Field when he went 2 1/3 and gave up 4 runs on 6 hits. But since then, he's given up, like I said, 1 run in each of his last 3 starts, and those came against the Mets, the Astros, and the Cardinals. 3 pretty good lineups. Colorado, you can't say is a good lineup when it comes to hitting on the road.
They have I believe they're bottom 3 in runs per road game, and either way, we agree.
I think they're ahead. I think they're ahead of Detroit.
I think they are, but still.
Bryce said Strider and that awesome mustache.
True. It's not Timmy Fu Manchu, but it's decent.
Well, not everybody can have the Hulk Hogan stash.
Only Steen.
Or Ox Baker for those of you that are old school wrestling fans.
That is true. I think John Axford.
What do you know about Ox Baker?
I've heard the name before.
Okay. Well, and the 4 for the show, Nathan said, well, I guess we've seen Mr. Cool be susceptible on the road.
I mentioned his road numbers. He's terrible on the highway, so I think Atlanta jumps him. But moving on to the 4-teamer.
Funny, Bryce vomiting about the A's and Nationals. I'm actually taking the A's. Ken Waldichuk making his debut against Paolo Espino. Anything good you want to say about Espino, Scott?
He's still in the league, so apparently the checks keep clearing. But what is he? He's 0-6?
I think so. What can you tell us about Waldichuk? He's an ex-Yankee farmhand.
Unfortunately, unlike Sears, he actually never made it to the majors, so I don't exactly know much. However, from what I gathered, he's got good strikeout stuff. I don't exactly know much more than that, but apparently he could be a pretty decent middle-of-the-rotation guy. At least that's the initial projections for him.
Fanned 137 guys over 95 innings in 21 starts in the minors.
Yeah, he's a strikeout guy. That's all I know.
Split between Somerset and the Eastern League, and then Las Vegas and my personal favorite Scranton WB.
Wilkes-Barre, very very nice this time of year.
Is it?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, I thought you've been there.
No idea. That's
there you go. See, that's false advertising. You want to write Scott Reichel, courtesy of Winners and Winers at blah, blah, blah.
I engaged in accidental misinformation.
I'm going to go with it's not the Diamondbacks and the Mets. It's the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. I mistyped it because I was looking at the Mets and Dodgers game, and then I changed my mind.
Doesn't matter. Point is you like the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, it's Merrill Kelly against, is it Woodruff going for Milwaukee? Either way, I don't trust Milwaukee to score a bunch of runs.
I like the under. I like the under in that game. First 5 potentially. I mean, Arizona was doing well offensively, and then they lost yesterday 18-2. But
yeah, the fun part was Carson Kelly didn't start, but he came in to pitch and got in at bat and went 0 for 1, so that under or not get a hit prop paid out at plus 205.
It actually might have. I don't know. Some books have 1 appearance. Some books have must start. So it varied.
I don't know. When I asked Steen about it before, he said that if the guy got in at bat, because that was the game when I think it was back in June or July when Judge didn't start and he came in and pinch hit and flew out to the warning track, and he said that it counted because he had a plate appearance.
It varies on the book.
Gotcha.
I'm telling you, it definitely varies depending on wording. But
well, it's Carson Kelly. He sucks anyway.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm going to take Penn State over Purdue. I just have to see Purdue move the ball. Nathan says Wake Forest minus 1 million.
Okay. I'm staying away from Wake Forest with the backup quarterback. I'm rooting for you, Nathan. But Penn State, we already talked about. I disagree. I don't exactly have a strong opinion on it, but I'm more interested in the plus 3.5 on Purdue, in my opinion.
And then Kershaw under 4.5 strikeouts. Like I said, if you can find it still, grab it. I don't see him necessarily getting there, especially if he's only going to throw 4 innings, like Tim said. Of course, it's Dave Roberts. He's the fountain of misinformation. For all we know, he could just be trying to lie to everybody.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I mean, he's still trying to tell people that Kimbrel's a good closer.
I think he's trying to convince himself. Kind of like how Boone yesterday was trying to convince himself that IKF's a good shortstop.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that.
He's an idiot. That's all you need to know.
Fair enough. And that takes us to the shot in the dark, Scott. Marcus Semien, over 1.5 total bases, playing at Boston, facing Rich Hill.
Okay. Lefty's got the green monster to work with.
The Rangers, people are talking about how Boston is great. I actually took Texas further down here. It's Rich Hill, like I said, going against Glenn Otto. Otto's pitched pretty well of late. Boston, 3 games below 500 at home. They have the same. They're the same number of games under at home as Texas is on the road.
I see runs in that game.
I can see that. Same token, I took Devers plus 110, and Austin Riley to drive in a run. Like you said, Cool's been terrible on the road. The Braves should score more than 3 friggin' runs.
I'm gonna give Atlanta 6 or 7 tonight. Yeah, Nathan, if you didn't know that, Hartman, the quarterback who led Wake Forest to the conference title game last year, he had a medical emergency. He's out indefinitely. So
yeah, I saw Dave Clawson was talking earlier that they still expect him to be back this season.
At some point in some capacity, but he might be missing like 2 months.
Yeah, he says he's progressing well. This was earlier this week, saying that he hasn't been cleared yet. It's a medical decision to be made by doctors. So this game is going to be Mitch Griffis.
I'm rooting for him.
He played. He did play in 4 games last year.
Good for him. Cool. What do you attempt? Like 20 passes?
2.
I overestimated. Whoops. All right.
So I mean, he's still a redshirt freshman.
Okay. So I'm not laying 31 with a redshirt freshman at quarterback.
How rude. Rowdy Tellez to not get a hit. Plus 160. Scott Tellez 6 for his last 44.
You also got Kelly on the mound, so you're going to get no argument for me. I'm a big fan of the unders for hits because you're getting 160 against good pitchers.
Yeah, he's of his 6 hits, he's got 3 solo homers.
Yeah.
But still, 6 for his last 44 over the last 13 games. Not a good streak for Tellez.
It is not.
Scott, explain to me why Ramirez is still plus money.
He keeps making us money, so I don't
know. We talked about the Rangers already. Kelly over 5.5 strikeouts. Milwaukee has a lineup that doesn't make a ton of contact. Sometimes we've seen them struggle on numerous occasions against good pitchers and even against some crappy pitchers because, hey, it's Milwaukee. Spencer Strider over 8.5 strikeouts. It's Colorado. Bieber, 6.5 strikeouts against Baltimore. He struck out 11 in his 1 start against them this season. And there you go, Scott. There's a Purdue reference. Brock Thompson to score a touchdown at plus 140. O'Connell's going to have to throw it to somebody. He's their top returning receiver from last year with Anthrop and Bell and all those guys gone. So I look for him to be involved. I'm just I want to see who else steps up for Purdue.
Yeah, either the over or either the touchdown or the over in yards. I think Thompson should have a pretty good game.
Yeah, I didn't see what his yard total was when I was looking this morning. I don't know if that wasn't out or if I just didn't pull it up on the right book.
I can check. But either way, we expect somebody to do something in the passing game, or the receiving game, I should say, for Purdue. It's most likely going to be Thompson.
Yes, somebody will do something for somebody.
At some time.
Exactly.
And that's
Somewhere.
why they pay us to work here.
Exactly.
That hard-hitting analysis. But pulling up the player props right now just to see if I actually have that. It appears it might be down right now, so I cannot pull it up. Okay, cool. Good talk. Anyway, we'll be back once again tomorrow. We finish the division, so now we'll officially go through college football, Saturday games and Friday games and Saturday games for tomorrow. Besides that, once again, if you missed it earlier in the show, I mentioned that Steen and I will be bringing back a college football show. We'll be doing a pre-recorded competition against us, 3 picks apiece for glory, and you get 6 free picks out of it. So
I will be eating snacks.
Yeah, we'll be doing that tomorrow. But besides that, anything else you want to talk about or plug before we wrap up?
No, I mean, you can always, if you can't get enough picks here, or you can always pick up the premium picks on the website. I think the link is in the show box below, provided Jim actually put it in there. I haven't had a chance to look.
I'm assuming
but he's usually pretty good about that stuff. So, I mean, those are there. You can get picks from everybody but Reichel because he puts his on YouTube. Or if you bother him enough on Twitter.
I was on VSiN last night. I gave out a tennis play. That won in straight sets.
Were you on VSiN?
I was in VSiN last night at roughly 2:15 local time. I was on Peterson's show and gave out some tennis. I gave out a tennis play, which I already won, and I gave out a soccer play, and I gave out a couple of college football plays.
I didn't know you bet on soccer.
I don't, but they asked me to, so I gave out a play.
Yeah, I see Hoops has got a full-time show now.
Nice.
That's it. From what I saw, he's going to be on, I think, Monday to Fridays or whatever.
Yeah, I've been on it. Nice show. Basically on it once a week now. So every Wednesday at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 2:15 Eastern Time, you can find me there.
Hoops is a good dude. Puts a lot of information out there that, people take for granted and then shit all over him, just like they do with everybody else when it's free information.
That's how it goes. If you give out good information and you win, people congratulate you briefly. You lose, and they think you're the worst capper of all time.
Pretty much.
So there we go.
Welcome to the world. Yeah, and like we always say about this part too, with the shot in the dark, you don't have to pick all 10. You
can mix and match.
Yeah, and Jim said it is there, so all the links for the premium stuff is in the show box. But yeah, mix and you can mix and match. Lex said he's taking 7 of these. You can take 7. You can take 3. You can take 5. You can mix with some of the other ones.
You can take 0.
You can take 0. Yeah.
We just give you the information. You can do whatever you want with it. By the way, Thompson receiving yards 66.5. The over's minus 114.
Wow, that seems low.
I think he's going for 100.
Unless there's going to be some driving rainstorm that we don't know about in West Lafayette.
We know Purdue is not going to reinvent the wheel. They're going to try to throw the ball 40 times. So
let's see. Nope, it's actually weather looks pretty decent.
I'll take the over. 97.5 is plus 148. That's not high enough for me. I'll just take the 67. 66.5. I think that number is way too low. I'll gladly take the minus 114. But
so you don't think he'll get to 100?
I think you will. But
you just don't want it.
I think you will. I just don't think the price is worth it. I'm acquiring an extra 40 yards or an extra 30 yards for 97, and I'm only getting like 54 cents. Like, that's just not a big enough jump for me. If it was 2-1, I'd consider it, but 148 compared to minus 114, I'd rather just take the 114.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it though for the Thursday episode. Until next time. Good luck to all of you and all your bets. Bye, everyone.